Hello. Moving forward with our presentation, we're going to be discussing the discussion portion of it. So, the purpose and the key findings. So, first of all, the purpose, which was to evaluate the effect of proprioceptive training on balance in amongst college students. Um, Also, to assess, the impact of balance training exercises on balance stability. And some key findings. Well, first of all, our participants performed balance test on a firm and a foam surface. We used pre and post test comparisons, and in those findings, there were no significant difference found between um, the proprioceptive training and the balance stability. Um, in this, no significant difference was found in balance stability scores after the intervention, which simply indicates that there were no measurable improvements in balance despite the proprioceptive training. And okay. Next, let me move this out of the way. Okay. And for our comparison to previous literature, so contrasting our results. In previous studies, it has been largely supported that there is much effectiveness of proprioceptive training in improving balance and stability. Our findings contradict these studies, showing, as I mentioned earlier, showing that our studies didn't resemble any significant impact or improvement in college students' balance. So, some possible explanations for these discrepancies could be first of all, our participant characteristics. Our study mainly focused on healthy college students with no prior balance impairments. Our studies also with studies with individuals suffering from balance deficits um, show more substantial improvements simply because they do have a balance deficit. They do see some improvement there, right? And since the majority of us were healthy college students, or I believe all of us that participated in our study, there wasn't really much balance to improve in a sense. And the next explanation that we have is maybe the training duration was shorter. So our we had a shorter intervention, 1 week in our study, versus compared to other studies and research, they have much longer interventions. Normally, 6, 8 weeks, of simply, going through the proprioceptive training and all that. So that could be a possible explanation for it. Another would be our assessment methods. Previous studies used more sensitive clinical tests to assess balance, while our study used general performance scores, which may not have detected, many smaller improvements. And so, moving forward with our relevant studies and discrepancies, um, a study by Alamari and of course all the other writers. They investigated combined strength and proprioceptive training on individuals with chronic ankle instabilities. They found that there were significant improvements in balance and proprioception. Another key difference here between our studies was our study participants were healthy with no prior balance issues, while here in their study, they targeted individuals who already had a pre-existing instability. So that could be, a reason why we have this discrepancy. Individuals with deficits have more room for improvement, while, for example, us who are healthy individuals might require longer or more intense training in order for us to see any, major or noticeable changes. And in another study by Guidu and the other authors, they focused on 14-year-old soccer players undergoing 8 weeks of proprioceptive training compared to ours, which was only 1 week, right? And they found that there were significant improvements in balance, agility, and strength after intensive training. And they did 4 sessions per week. So a key difference here, like I mentioned, ours was only 1 week of training, while theirs was much longer. And the soccer players likely responded differently compared to untrained college students, right? The training program. So their intervention combined proprioceptive exercises with sports-specific training. So this kind of, it helped them, in their sport of soccer, right? And this potentially yielded greater effects than our, more just in general training approach, right? And the next study that I wanted to look at was Karakaya, and the authors of that study. They focused on ankle-specific proprioceptive training, and they found significantly improved static balance in university students. They used a kinesthetic ability trainer, which is commonly called a sport cat, a tool designed to provide highly sensitive balance assessments, so much more accurate than what we did. So the difference in methodology in here was we used a general balance performance scores, right? Which may not have been the best, but and may not have been sensitive enough to detect any subtle changes or any improvements. It could have been also the difference in the structure of our program, as their program focused more on specifically on ankle stability, stretching, strengthening, performing balance board exercises, while ours did not necessarily target ankle stability as intensely due to not having the proper resources, etc. And the sample size, their study had a much larger sample size, which could have increased the statistical power to detect, small but meaningful changes in balance. But further research is required to point this out. And these are the references for the studies I mentioned. And yeah, thank you very much.